Okay, in this video we're going to look at introducing absolute values. Okay, so absolute values simply measure, or technically measure, the distance of a number from 0 on a number line. Now that might sound a little more complicated than what it actually is, but absolute values is very simple. Okay, we used vertical bars to represent absolute values. Okay, these vertical bars are the absolute values, and we're finding the absolute value of 3. Okay, so this is the absolute value of 3. Okay, that's what it means. Now again, what the absolute value says is asking is, well, how far away from 0 is the number 3 on a number line? Well, I mean, it is simply 3 units away. Okay, 3 is 3 units away from 0. Okay, so you might think, so what? So now let's look at the absolute value of -3. Okay, so again, we're asking how far away from 0 is -3? Well, it's still 3 units away from 0. It's just 3 units in the other direction. So the absolute value of 3 is 3, and the absolute value of -3 is also 3, because they're both 3 units away from 0 on the number line. Absolute value of 10, well, is 10, because 10 is 10 units away from 0 on the number line. The absolute value of -7 is 7, or +7, because it's 7 units away from 0 on the number line. Absolute value is very easy. Okay, absolute value -100, simply +100, because it's 100 units away from 0 on the number line. Absolute value of 12.5 is 12.5. Okay, so absolute value, even though the definition or the technical, or what it means, technically what it means, might be a little bit weird or confusing, it's actually a very simple thing that we're doing. If we're finding the absolute value of a number, we're just saying how far away from 0 is that number, and we think for a second and we get our answer. Okay, so now let's look at operations, okay, with absolute values. So let's say we want to do 3 plus the absolute value of -4. Okay, very simple. The very first thing we need to do is do the absolute value of -4, which is +4, and 3 plus 4 is 7. Okay, nothing weird, nothing difficult. Absolute value -4 is 4, and then we're just doing 3 plus 4, which is 7. Okay, you can quickly try this one. We're doing the absolute value of -4 minus the absolute value of 2. So absolute value of -4 is 4. Absolute value of 2 is 2. So we're doing 4 minus 2, which is simply 2. Okay, a slightly more challenging example. What happens if we have an operation inside of our absolute values? Okay, now we're getting a little more practical. Well, this just means absolute values are just like parentheses or brackets or another grouping symbol. We have to do what's on the inside of the absolute values first, and it's very important that you do what's on the inside of the absolute values first, because you only take the absolute value of a number. So I could do 6 minus 9. Okay, I know 6 minus 9 is -3, and that's what I'm taking the absolute value of. Okay, we do what's on the inside of our absolute values first. The absolute value of 6 minus 9 is -3. Absolute value is +3. Okay, try this one. The absolute value of -5 plus 1. Okay, so we do -5 plus 1. And we get -4. And then we take the absolute value of -4, which is +4. Again, we add what's on the inside first. We're not taking the absolute value of each first. We add what's on the inside first, or do the operation on the inside first, and take the absolute value. Okay, just one more so you see a problem like this. Let's say we have 2 times the absolute value of 3 minus 7 plus 1. Again, we have things to do on the inside of our absolute values. 3 minus 7 is -4. -4 plus 1 is -3. This operation is multiplication, so we're doing 2 times the absolute value of negative 3. The absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3, so 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, very simple. Okay, so let's look at something again. Let's try and get a little bit more complicated. We see that absolute values are very easy, so let's try and quickly take this to where we need to go with it. Suppose we have the absolute value of x, and I'm telling you that it equals 6. I'm telling you I'm taking the absolute value of a number, and I'm getting 6 as my answer. So I want you to think for a moment about what x is, or what could x be. Okay, so let's think through this. Remember, absolute values are asking how far away from 0 is the number on the inside, or on the number line. So we're saying we want to know what number, or what numbers, are 6 units away from 0. Well, I know the absolute value of 6 is 6. But is there anything else I could take the absolute value of and still get positive 6? Is there another number that's 6 units away from 0 on the number line? Well, yes. Okay, negative 6. I know the absolute value of negative 6 is also positive 6. So we get two answers here. Okay, because there's two numbers that are 6 units away from 0 on the number line. It's very simple. So why don't you try these? Okay, I'm saying the absolute value of x equals 10. So the absolute value of x equals 19.5. The absolute value of x equals 0. And the absolute value of x equals negative 1. Okay, so press pause, quickly try these, and press play when you're ready to go over it. Okay, so the first one, absolute value of x equals 10. So we want to know what number or numbers could we take the absolute value of and be left with positive 10. What numbers are 10 units away from 0 on the number line? Well, that's x equals 10 and x equals negative 10. The absolute value of 10 is 10. The absolute value of negative 10 is also 10. Okay, the second one. What numbers are 19.5 units away from 0 on the number line? So that's x equals 19.5 or x equals negative 19.5. Okay, the absolute value of both of these are that 19.5 that we want. Okay, this third one, the absolute value of x equals 0. Well, what numbers are 0 units away from 0 on the number line? That's just 0. Okay, there's no positive 0, there's no negative 0. The absolute value of 0 is the only thing that will equal 0. And this last one, okay, I hope we didn't say x equals 1 or x equals negative 1, because the absolute value of 1 is positive 1, not negative 1, and the absolute value of negative 1 is still positive 1, not negative 1. Okay, absolute values, if you haven't noticed already, are always positive, okay, because it's a distance from 0. When we're talking about distance from 0, we're talking about only positive numbers, so it's impossible for us to take the absolute value of a number and get a negative answer, get a negative number as a result. So here we say there are no solutions. Okay, so now let's take a moment to look at what we have very quickly. Okay, we see that we often get two solutions when we're taking absolute values. Okay, because we know there were two numbers that were 6 units away from 0. There were two numbers that were 10 units away from 0. There's two numbers that are 19.5 units away from 0. So it's very important we understand that we could have two solutions to our absolute value equations. Now there's one case where we have just one solution. Okay, when we see the absolute value of x equals 0, we only had one answer because there's no positive 0, there's no negative 0, only 0 is 0 units away from 0 on the number line. And we also could see that we have no solutions. Okay, if we have the absolute value of x equals a negative number, we're going to get no solutions. Okay, and that's a very important thing for us to note and jot down. Okay, so we could have two solutions when we have the absolute value of x equals a positive number. We get one solution when the absolute value of x equals 0, and we get no solutions if we have the absolute value of x equals a negative number. And this is very important, and it's going to help us when problems get a little more complicated.